Another green day booked for the GTII asset. Let's go ahead and find out the potentials for the following sessions. What is up, you guys? Thank you so much for stopping by once again. This is ARCa coming at you with a GTII technicals and raw price action thread of analysis on this happy Monday. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the video with a friend so that you and them could consider joining our trading community and Discord called ARCa Bulls. With that said, let's dive right into the charts. Okay, so yes, we're looking at the ascending channel that we've been riding for quite some time now on the 12-hour chart here. And as you can see, we are still creating that ascent that we were looking for from this bottom support that we were tracking for some time, right? So another thing to notice here is actually something very curious as we are looking at the weekly time frame volatility versus momentum here. And please notice that we are in a contraction phase. Let me just note here the 90 percentile of volatility. Here you go. So we actually have critical volatility and now starting a contraction phase with an upside pivot. And please notice that we are still pivoted towards the upside with both of the K% and D%, which represent a 14-day simple moving average and a 3-day exponential moving average of the stochastic momentum oscillator. Okay, so this is a very positive sign for GTII on the weekly. Okay, so this is a macro scale upside that we're looking for, and of course we've been talking about a macro scale upside for a couple months easily now. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next chart and catch all of our signals to see what we have going. Okay, if you remember correctly, the 5-day volatility versus momentum also in a contraction phase, also now starting to pivot towards the upside. Very, very good things in line for the GTII asset. Now, per the back test of the 5-day volatility versus momentum, you're looking at about 183.05% over the span of about 25 and 3/4 days. So that signal was fired right about here. Okay, just as soon as we started getting the upside, actually I'm sorry, as soon as we actually got that contraction phase and the upside, so right about here was where we got that signal fired. Okay, so we still have a bit of time to go, and if we were to complete that 183.05% move to the upside, it takes us to about $3.74. Okay, so it looks like we're still on that path and we're still very healthy. Okay, so let's go ahead and now look at another chart that we haven't seen in quite some time now. So this is the broadening descending wedge on the 5-day chart. Okay, so what we're looking at here is the validation of support from the newly converted resistance, right? What was a resistance into now a support of the broadening descending wedge trend line. Okay, so we actually validated that and we're on our way to the upside. We're approaching some very critical areas of resistance, though. We do need to combat some areas before we can continue that, right? So just to kind of point some of those out, I want to just show you what the pennant was doing here from the 3-day chart. Okay, so before that pennant, just please remember that we do have that regression line here from the stochastic momentum still suggesting, well, I mean, we drew this from here, from this point to this point, right? So we drew it here and we said, we were right up here, right? Actually making a descent. And we said if it's going to respect if it's going to respect that regression, then very likely we could actually see that touch right down here, right? And then correct to the upside. Very curious that we did get that upside pump from the 3-day iteration upon the closure of this candle here. So it did kind of influence our momentum to respect that regression line even still. Please notice that we are contracting in the BBWP, and this was our major back test of volatility versus momentum, which actually indicates a pretty large upside, right? So out of a total 31 iterations throughout the entire trading history, in this case, of the GTII asset, these are all of my notes here, right? So you can see that I have back tested this since about the first iteration of the back test was 1995. Okay, so 31 iterations total. Giving us, let's see, 21 out of those iterations were guessed correctly to the upside, giving us an average upside accuracy of 67.74% with an average upside thrust of a massive 971.33% over the span of about 22 and a half days. Okay, so or just over that. So the move is actually still on, and of course we've surpassed that average time. But the move is still on. And the reason why I can say this is because we started a contraction phase from this point here, which is kind of where from yeah, from right about over here, which is where we were signaling that yes, we are very likely going to continue making an upside move here, but it is going to take days and days, potentially weeks and weeks, right? Because it is the 3-day chart. Every candle here takes about almost 4 days to complete. So if you're doing 4, 8, 12, you can only imagine how many you would need to complete an upside move. That 971% move to the upside leads to a lot of confluence. Sorry. So you're looking at the 4-spot 618 located at about 1006. The 971% target leads to 1027. And if we're gonna just look at this the trend line here, I mean, potentially 1096 to about 1051. So everything is within that $10 zone. Golden ratio, statistical backtest, and I mean, there is another way to kind of look at this too. If we were to actually take the top side of our descending triangle or right angle triangle, we can actually see if we can get any close to that, right? So, and the reason why is because I just noted a support range for us to evaluate, right? But if you can see here, this candle's using this line as support. This candle's opening at support. You have an opening at support here and a lot of confluence within that, right? So now we can actually take this and apply it to the point of breakout to see where that takes us, right? So this is that candle for breakout. So applying it here takes us to a target that's about 1631. So it is, in a sense, kind of rhyming with everything else as well, right? So I am a fan over what's happening, but please know that this is not going to be just one straight shot to the upside unless a psychological event were to happen and then just all of the longs just push to the upside and creating this huge, sentiment-driven upside run. But other than that, I think the upside is very gradual, and I actually did express this weeks and weeks ago. I said the upside would be best if we actually just did it gradually, right? Rather than just one huge pump to the upside. And I'm sure you'll remember this when I said, well, your account is going to go to like $1 million and then it's going to go to $0. It's kind of crappy when you're looking at impulsive price action that way, right? So it's best for us to actually just make these gradual moves, and it's also best for us to consider these gradual moves since the markets are potentially facing some red days, depending on the CPI data read coming out tomorrow, of course. Okay, so lots of things to look out for. Okay, so now in reference to the resistance range that I told you that we're approaching some resistances, right? Yes, we are. So please go ahead and notice here that we have a gap of which we've been kind of knocking at the door for quite some time. We actually did try to make that breakout at the 298 level we were looking at, on this run. But it failed it, and now we're approaching that resistance zone again. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we can keep in consideration our gaps, right? So our previous gaps for future play. It does not matter that we already closed the gap. The whole point of this run was also, in respects to closing that gap, right? So we came back down, and now we're actually right back on our way up to potentially close that, right? So I would like you to notice here that the opening of our current bi-daily candle right over here is actually in direct correlation with our bottom side of another gap, which is actually this gap right over here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and extend the trend line so that you can see exactly what I mean. See what I mean? Check it out. The opening of our candle, dead on the support touch of this. It was a resistance, right? But now it's a support of our gap right over here. Okay, so everything is looking good, you guys. But yes, we have a very important target to clear here. Okay, and that target range is definitely between the space of 206 and 225. Just like we did the last time, we faced a resistance right at that 206 level. We retraced, and then we gathered all the longs and we continued to the upside. Everything is good. All right, so let's go ahead and now reference the RSI, as this will be the last part of our analysis, and you know how that goes, guys. Okay, so yes, please go ahead and notice that the bi-daily, let me change the color of this so that we can identify what these are, right? So what you're looking at here is divergence, right? So divergence is the opposition of price action versus momentum, and momentum in this case represented by the RSI indicator, relative strength index, very popular indicator for the trade. right? So the pink line represents a 14-day simple moving average. The purple represents the RSI signal itself, okay? So meaning momentum to the upside or momentum to the downside. What helps us determine that is also the moving average itself. Okay, so what you're looking at here are 1 and 2 drives of hidden bullish divergence, on the bi-daily chart, which we should definitely apply some weight. It definitely carries weight. The higher the time frame, the heavier it is, right? So you're looking at these are your drives of bullish divergence, hidden bullish divergence, right? So please always remember that you're looking at higher lows on the price action, right? Meaning this. So you're creating higher lows. And you're creating lower lows on the indicator, right? So lower lows in this case. So very good stuff. We have 2 drives and they're already validated, and we're suggesting that upside even still. So now let's go ahead and open up the multi-pane to see what we have in store for GTII. Okay, so in reference to the 30-minute immediate short-term time frame, let me just go ahead and make sure that this thing loads up for us. There we go. Okay, perfect. So, 30-minute immediate short term using that 14-day simple as a form of support alongside the gravitational zone of the bull strength percentile. Okay, so we have that gravitational zone touch alongside the 14-day simple moving average and an upside continuation, and it looks very good. Okay, so historically speaking, we can still, oversell or overbuy, all the way up. Very high. This iteration in particular, from October 2022, takes us to about 92.63%, and I'm not even looking all the way back. I'm sure there are higher iterations. We're sitting at about 75.06. Okay, so we still have plenty of room to go. Okay, so it looks like the 4-hour could be losing a little bit of bull steam, but please always remember the position of your RSI signal. Okay, the signal is now approaching that gravitational zone of the bull strength percentile, which would essentially pressure us to the upside. So this is very good. Go ahead and notice that the 8-hour time frame is suggesting a very significant and very convincing upside pivot here from that 14-day. From both the 14-day simple and the RSI signal. Okay, so the daily RSI is right at the junction between the bear weakness and the bull strength. Very likely we can actually continue on to the upside. As we focus onto the upper time frames, please notice that the RSI on the 3-day is has definitely used that support from the 14-day simple and is now suggesting a continuation to the upside. Okay, we have now entered the bull weakness percentile. Very good. Similar situation here with the 5-day iteration. We definitely have that 14-day touch and now a bounce and continuing on to the upside. Notice that the 14-day simple has now pivoted towards the upside and still suggesting an upside continuation. Okay, so please remember again, I really am talking about that. We need to combat that target, right? So in reference to, actually, I think it was the daily. Let me just go back into the daily time frame so I can remind you of what that zone is. Okay, very likely we're going to jump into the zone right here tomorrow, 206 to 225. Okay, so we definitely have this to combat. As soon as we do break out of this, usually we do face a pullback right at this area here. Very likely we can actually come back and test the range of about 186 to about 177 before a continuation onto the upside and potentially breaking through both of these zones, thus creating or converting this zone into a form of support, and then eventually realizing our actual targets. Okay, so the main areas to look out for, 206 to 225. After this, we have the next area between about 275 to 298, just like we did the last time. And then we can look at our upper targets, which would eventually take us to the $3.74 zone. Okay, but we have to take it day by day, guys. All right, but please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Take whatever I do show and iterate within these videos as just a form of entertainment, as I cannot suggest for you to buy or sell any assets whatsoever. Okay, I need you to do your own due diligence and everything will be just fine. Please refer to the links in the description below if you would like to reach out to me on Twitter or join the ARCa Bulls trading community in Discord. Okay, you guys, but with that said, I wish you well, a very good night, and I will catch you at the bell mañana. Adios.